Hey, this is Mikal, and today I'm going to show you how to do a sumif. Okay, so I've got three examples, and we'll get a bit more complex. So there's sumifs and sumif. Sumifs and sumif. I would always ignore sumif, always use sumifs, because you can do everything that you can do in a sumif in a sumifs, but you can also do more. So let's start here. Let's say we've got cats and dogs, and we've got different names for cats and dogs, and maybe the amount it costs to buy food for them. So let's do a sumifs, and we're going to the first column of a sumifs is always the first column. It's different to a sumif, which is why I said to use sumifs only. So we'll use the first column, and then we're interested in it's then going to ask you for your criteria range. So we're interested in whether they're cats or dogs. So that's the second column, and then the last thing that they want is the criteria. So we want it to be either cat or dog, and so that's going to be based on this cell here. We could probably just type in cat if we wanted, cat, and then we could also do dog. That would work, but we can just also just point the formula to cat, and when we copy it down, it'll point to dog. Notice that I've done a full column here and here, so that it doesn't really matter if I copy the formula up and down. If I wanted to do just a range, you've got to be then really careful with your references. So you've got to make sure that you fix your formulas with the dollar signs to make sure that they don't move up or down as you copy the formulas up and down. Okay, so that's one. The second example, same thing again, but now this is where you can do something with a sumifs and not with a sumif. So what we're going to do, same thing again. So I'm going to do cats and dogs and their name. So maybe we have lots of cats and dogs, and we have multiple names. We use alpha lots of times for cats and dogs. I don't know why this scenario would happen, but let's say it did. So you sum the amount there, because that's the first one. Then the first criteria range is the cats and dogs, let's say. It could be the other one, and we're going to point that to cat. This is where, again, you've got to be careful with your referencing. So I'm going to fix just the row, so that when I copy the formula to the right, when I copy up and down, it stays pointing to the headers. And then the next one I'm going to do is point to the names, and I'm going to point this to the name here, and here I'm going to fix just the column. So as I copy it side to side in different columns, it will stay pointing to that column. So now I can copy it here, and it will point to the right place. So actually with a sumif, the hard thing really is to make sure that you've got your relative referencing, or your referencing pointing correctly. Cool, so that's that example. And now maybe an example that makes a bit more sense. Let's say you had maybe a trial balance with lots of different periods, and you had revenue, cost of sales, and expenses, and you had different amounts. So again, it's going to be very similar to the previous example. So I want to sum the amount, and then let's say name. I could pick names, I could pick category. It doesn't really matter which one you pick first, but you just have to be consistent with what you do in the next cell. So I'm picking the account, and so I need to point to the account name, and then again I'm fixing it so it stays in the column, and then I'm picking the date, I don't know why it's called category, and point that to date, and I'm fixing it so that it's the row that stays the same. And now we should be able to copy that across. Let's make the format nicer and simplify it. So what I've done is I've made the numbers roughly 200 for cost of sales, roughly 400 for expenses, and roughly 1,000 for revenue. And then you can add a minus in front of that one, and a minus in front of that one, and that way you can just do a basic sum at the bottom, and you get your profit. Cool, thanks for watching. That's how you can do a sumif.